John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness. Hyperbole.
There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Oh, back in the saddle. Back in the saddle. Hope everybody had a good long weekend. It is Tuesday, May 30th. The year is 2023. It's episode 412 of the Anik and Florian podcast. Freeform episode of the Anik and Florian podcast. That's what we used to say when we would do live radio. Freeform Friday, right? When you didn't have necessarily a ton of interviews or a ton of things to talk about. We will have Ray Longo coming up here in about 7 minutes. Making a lot of headlines, Raymond, talking about Aljamain Sterling. We'll also have Brian Petrie, him and Ken-Flo. I think I asked you guys to make like 7 picks, but it looks as though maybe Jamie Malaki's going to have a new opponent, so it's down to 6 selections. So a lot to get into today and some MMA headlines off the top that I would like to get into. But before all of that noise, you might notice Ken-Flo's not in his home studio. So if you are watching on the video side, that's not breaking news. So we're in our pre-show meeting, and I asked Ken-Flo if there's anything to promote. I'm not going to reveal his whereabouts for fear of some integrated defense measures coming my way. But I guess, when I asked the guy, is there anything to promote wherever he is in the world? His answer was so short-winded. Right, Cody? I mean, it's just like, no. So I don't know where you are exactly. I don't know what you're doing. Your flannel shirt's pretty nice. Kind of matches your hat. But it's nice to see you nonetheless. It feels like it's been a while. We did do an episode without you on Thursday of last week. So it's good to see your shiny face, as always.
It's great to see you as well, man. I'm out in the West Coast, hanging a little bit. And, yeah, man, it's good to be doing the show here.
Is there any jiu-jitsu part of whatever you're doing in the Pacific time zone?
Yes, a little bit.
All right. Okay. A little bit of jiu-jitsu. So season 31 of The Ultimate Fighter begins tonight. And for those that haven't been drawn to recent previous seasons, this is on linear television. It's on ESPN. It's Conor McGregor. It's Michael Chandler. MMA Junkie did a piece laying out all of the previous Ultimate Fighter winners, and there are a lot more than 30 of them because of seasons Latin America and Brazil and otherwise. But I got to go up to Bristol, as some of our listeners know, and film a show called Before TUF. We did interviews with Uriah Faber and Eddie Alvarez and Michael Chandler, of course, one of the coaches. That is on the ESPN MMA YouTube page. But I got the DVR set. Like, they got me back in, and I don't know if it's the McGregor effect or the fact that it's on ESPN. For me, sometimes, as a guy born in the 1970s, you tell me I can set my DVR on my Xfinity cable box, and that sounds very doable. So, to what degree are you locked in 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, May 30th, season 31 of The Ultimate Fighter?
I'm certainly curious, and we'll definitely check out the season. I think that just a great opportunity for the UFC to gain more fans yet again. When you have a huge name like Conor McGregor involved with The Ultimate Fighter, I think that's a great thing and a great choice that they're putting it on TV as opposed to streaming it. And I expect that if all things go well, this will be another blockbuster for the UFC in regards to pay-per-view buys. Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, if you've seen them fight before, that alone will sell the fight, but I think this will just help that much more.
So Kenny has not seen Before The Ultimate Fighter, and that's not because he's not a supportive friend. He's got all this other stuff going on in his life. By the way, I went down a rabbit hole this morning on Instagram. The handle is at Argus Integrated Defense. Founded by Kenny Florian in collaboration with A&R Tactics and James Paulo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Jared Paulo. Yes, you got it.
Jared.
Yeah.
Jared Paulo. Excuse me.
Yeah.
What'd I say, James?
Yeah.
I need reading glasses. All right, so we got Jared Paulo. We got fucking Antonio Rivers, Nicole Thurman. We don't want to leave anybody out. But I'd imagine if you got an Instagram handle, this is pretty interesting stuff. So Argus Integrated Defense. So it seems like maybe the next course is in October. There might be one sooner, but this is pretty involved in something that I'd imagine you're pretty passionate about. So before I get back to The Ultimate Fighter, what is Argus Integrated Defense?
Yeah, thanks for asking, man. So basically it's a group of us, from all different backgrounds, or military or police or otherwise. I come from a fighting background. And we all kind of just started training together. I was involved with, learning how to shoot and get better with that and trying to use that in a variety of different ways and explore that. And we all kind of started working together, collaborating on different things and kind of stress testing different things. And decided to kind of, hey, there was this need that we can all kind of fulfill and use our backgrounds and specialties and knowledge to help other people, whether it's law enforcement, military, or civilians, and try to kind of formulate these courses where you are actually utilizing, the ability to use a pistol and the ability to retain that pistol with both, combatives and knowledge of how to utilize a weapon properly. So we're trying to put it all together for people because sometimes you think that, hey, I'm a professional fighter, I know what to do. Well, not if someone pulls a gun on you and then you think, well, if I have a pistol, what do I need martial arts for? What do I need to know how to fight? I just pull up my gun, shoot anybody who wants to come at me. It's like, no, it's not that easy either, depending on what kind of range they're in. So you want to know when to use your pistol, when to use your hands, all that stuff, the legal implications of all that stuff. So we try to address all of it and try to give a more complete self-defense curriculum, more complete self-defense approach.
I love it, but a lot of it rooted in integrating firearms defense and martial arts defense, and right up Ken-Flo's fucking alley, So are you guys trying to take this thing like across the United States? I mean, what are the plans? I mean, is the Anik and Florian podcast, like, are you going to leave us when this thing gets to be just so massive? Like, what is the ultimate vision since you're the goddamn founder?
I will always be here with Anik.
My man, let's go.
So, we get a ton of requests all over the country for seminars. Obviously, with my schedule and the other guys' schedules, it's tough to put it all together all the time. So we try to bang out a bunch in a weekend at a particular city or location, things like that. And, so it depends. We definitely have plans on doing more of the teaching side. We also have plans of creating a very interesting competition. I can't really say too much about it now, but we're trying to create a very cool, I guess you could say, self-protection competition that involves some of the elements that we talked about. So that could be very interesting in the future. So we're hoping to have that later this year. So yeah.
Now, would you and I be the commentators for this initiative?
That would be cool. That would be awesome. Right. Gotta do that.
Doesn't seem like you thought about that yet. Where the fuck's Chris Rose, by the way? Chris Rose, Sean O'Connell. We'll see who he chooses. As long as it's not Kurt Pellegrino.
Yes. Gonna be a
by the way, Kurt Pellegrino is not a godfather to one of your children. Somebody commented, right? No. All right. Kurt, we love you, but we're just gonna leave it there. All right. Ray Longo is ready, but I'm just going to take 30 seconds, and I hope that he'll be okay with this. I want to ask you, Kenny, in 30 seconds on The Ultimate Fighter. I asked Eddie Alvarez on that show that you didn't watch, and our producer, Air Broom, came up with a great question here. This show is prospects versus veterans, and I'm not being paid to talk about the show. I'm actually intrigued. So I asked Eddie Alvarez, at the request of my great producer, Air, if you're a coach and you had the choice of prospects or veterans, guys who've been in the UFC before, those are the veterans, or prospects that haven't been there, which group are you choosing in 30 seconds or less?
I guess I would go with prospects because I feel like I have more of a chance at changing them a little bit more and molding them a little bit more than, say, someone who may be set in their ways as far as a veteran. Now, experience matters so much, but for me as a coach, I would probably lean towards prospects. It's also a little bit more exciting, I think that way.
And he's also selfless, right? Because ultimately you see his answers rooted in the athletes and not trying to win the competition, right? I'm just saying some people might have said, hey, give me the veterans, right? Been there, done that. These guys are going to be hungry as hell, like last chance type deal. All right, well, that's enough on that. Thanks for indulging me. Season 31 of The Ultimate Fighter tonight, live on ESPN and ESPN+. All right, let us now get to the star of the show. However groomed, it's the Ray Longo Minute.
Now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute.
Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
My man.
Hey, raise your hand if you hear that static. Oh, it just went away. That's a beautiful thing. And Cody's going to kill me for addressing it. Hi, Ray.
Hey, guys.
Hey, buddy. Nice to see you.
What's happening?
Hey, I'll tell you a funny story. I was listening to you guys talk, but I'm with Kenny. I'm taking the prospects because they're hungry for knowledge. They're going to be right there. The veterans know what they're doing. They're not going to listen to you. You can't get them to do anything they don't want to do. When me and Matt did season 6 of The Ultimate Fight, I remember it came down to picking either Soteropoulos or Mark Danzig. And Danzig, I think, just got done with a fight in Pride. Seemed like he was a seasoned guy. And for that very reason, we went with Soteropoulos because we figured we could make a difference. And, Danzig's already been there and done that. And obviously both guys were really good on the show and had decent careers, I think. But, I'm with Kenny. Give me the prospects. I think that's where it's at. That's where the excitement is at as a coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I thought you were about to bang on George Soteropoulos in back-to-back episodes, but you didn't.
No. Didn't even. I only talk from if it fit the story of what we're talking about, then I'll say something. I'm definitely
no, of course. No, I know. I'm just messing around.
And I think, and John, your face when the mere thought that Pellegrino was a godfather to one of Kenny's kids and not you. I do it in my heart. I got pains in my heart right now looking at you. That was horrible.
Because as if Kurt might have been chosen over me. I'm not trying to. Yeah. This has nothing to do with me. It's about Kurt being the wrong choice. Or true.
Oh man, we don't even have any picked out. How bad is that? Okay. Well,
no. Well, I'm a Jewish man. My wife's Catholic, but we don't have any godparents. I have an identical twin brother. Ken-Flo told me to get a fucking trust. So you know what I did? Went and got a family trust, and Jason, my twin brother, is going to be in charge. If one of these metal tubes goes down over Australia. So, all right, a lot to get into. And I kind of figured that you would mention the prospects as well. That's why I actually front-ended that and tried to ask Kenny about it. But a lot to get to. But let's just start. I mean, what's going on in your life? We appreciate the extra time last week. What's going on? What do you got going on? How was your extended weekend? I mean, you're always fucking grinding, we know, but what's going on?
Damn, no, we had a great weekend over here. People were training. We went to a couple of parties together. Good time on Long Island.
I know you'd rather talk about martial arts than yourself, but when you go to a party, I think some of the audience would like to know what you do, what beverage you have in hand. We know you spit out steak fat at this point, but what do you drink? We did never get, and we also never got how you get your steak cooked.
Steak cooked is medium rare. Drink of choice is vodka and cranberry, whatever vodka they have.
All right.
Hopefully the highest end vodka.
All right.
But I try not to drink that much anymore at this point.
Right. So would it be you mix in a Diet Coke then if you're not drinking?
No, definitely. It's either water. I don't drink anything but water.
Yeah.
Water, coffee, tea, and an occasional drink.
Yeah. I only drink soda and Gatorade when I'm not on the Anik and Florian podcast because with Ken-Flo, I'm just not trying to do, We got the green tea today.
The green tea. I mean, how many cups? I have three cups of green tea a day.
That's great, man. That's
really
why
good,
you're gonna live forever. So, in terms of martial arts, if you came across, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, Kenny, I love what you're doing with the self-defense. If I stop tomorrow, that's kind of what I'm doing because I have a kid that's been with me since he's 17. He's a pretty high-ranking FBI guy. He's certified in every possible. He was in the military, and he's always saying, "This is what we got to do. This is what we got to do." Yeah. He loves it. He loves exactly what you're doing. I'd even love to hook you up with him. He's
that'd be cool.
He's great, man. He's really good. He's one of my, for the collie and stuff like that. Definitely one of my top guys, which we don't talk about a lot, but there's a couple of those guys floating around. I love the collie for that stuff. I really do.
Yeah,
love it. Sorry,
Cody
John.
Cody just pushed out a tweet. I am at my twin brother's house. If you are watching on the DraftKings YouTube channel or the DraftKings network, we hope you're watching on the network. But my brother just tweeted my brother's recording his podcast at my house because his Wi-Fi is trash. So is his mouth. I got little girls here listening. Watch your tongue, son. Now he can't hear anything that you guys are saying because I got these big things covering up my big ears, But I guess we'll try to clean it up a little bit, right? They can hear everything. I don't usually do it at this time of day. So it's taking over the bedroom. You know why? Because we're moving into a studio.
Well, and thank you for the gift that came in the mail. You guys are the best.
Oh, you got the check? It wasn't a gift. Did someone send you a gift?
What was that?
Did someone send you a gift, or are you talking about the check?
No, I'm talking about the check. The check is the gift. Are you kidding
Okay.
me?
Yeah. Well, no, I just want to make sure Cody didn't send you like merchandise, right? And I want the extra rounds folks to know that we send you checks.
No, definitely. You guys are the best. I really appreciate
making sure. I totally lost my train of thought.
No,
What were we
get
talking
you back
about?
on. I'm all yours now. Forget about the.
All right.
I had to get that in because I was listening to Kenny talk about doing the competition. I think it's great. I think that's all great.
Oh,
stuff.
that's what we were talking about. That's what we were talking about, and hooking him up with your buddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you have anybody in action this coming weekend, June 3rd, 4th?
Wait, hold on. Give me
For those listening, obviously.
Oh, I do. You know what? I
the-
have a kid, Hunter Tracy. He's going to do a boxing smoker with the NYPD against the fire department. It's like a tough man contest type of deal.
Yeah.
So, going over there Saturday.
All right. I just want to get that out of the way before we dive back into Aljamain Sterling and some other things. By the way, how's Merab Dvalishvili on the mend? Any word on Merab?
Yeah, he's back in town. Didn't you see the video where he's throwing everybody around with the cast on his hand?
No.
Yes, I did.
Did you see that? He's just nonstop. I don't know. He's in a great spirits. I think the cast is coming off in a couple of months. It seems like he's going to do better with this operation than Weidman did, because I don't know if they grafted the bone from his hip into his hand, but I don't know. He seems he's in great spirits. I mean, he was happy as a lark, and he's whatever.
But this was a pretty invasive procedure.
I don't know. It was he had a bad, he's in a cast and he had a hand problem. I mean, Weidman's definitely was. He was hurt.
Yeah, right. No, I remember
something
that.
out of his hip. Yeah, and they had the same injury, but that was 10 years ago. So maybe they changed something. I forget what Merab said about that, but he looked happy. He looked good.
See, Longo's afraid of getting clickbaited, right? He's afraid of getting aggregated. I bring up Merab Dvalishvili, and I use the word invasive to describe the surgery, and he don't want those headlines, right, on those mixed martial arts websites. I don't have to worry about. Longo says Dvalishvili's surgery was invasive.
Yeah, I tell you, first off, I hate those clickbait things, man. They drive me fucking crazy.
No, get you.
Well,
and every so often I go, I'm not even going to do an interview because of that. And then I just forget completely about it until I see it again. And I was like, oh man, because I really hate listening to myself. So I never listened to like a full interview, but then you get those clicks coming through like your feed. But this guy's pushing me right. Ken, he's dying today. Holy crow. I go, get to the good stuff. Come on. I feel like I'm boring the shit out of you today.
No, I'm enjoying this tremendously. I find it fascinating that you don't listen to yourself back, right? And what are we, 412 episodes in at this point in time? And gosh, I don't like listening to myself back. I hate watching my pay-per-view opens back, but I haven't found any other way to get better than to forcing myself through that inconvenient truth. All right, so a few things I'd like to get into if we could. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not a big soap opera guy. You don't strike me as a big soap opera guy, but as the world turns, according to Aljamain Sterling, it seems like every day there's a headline and an update. So where do we stand right now here? Training camp's got to be getting started pretty soon, I would think.
He was just in here. He hit for 5 rounds. We analyzed a couple of fights. We only did a couple of rounds. That was it. Yeah, he's pulling himself into it slowly but surely.
Oh, and I have no doubt that he'll be fine, and he's very mentally forged. But he's enormous right now, which is fine. That shouldn't affect the betting line necessarily. Have you seen the betting line yet, Ray?
No, what is the betting line?
Do you have a guess before we just offer that type of information up to you?
No, I want to say but it was like a week ago. I heard Aljo was a minus. He was the favorite, maybe minus 180, 200, something like that.
Yeah, it's even north of that. Sean O'Malley right now on DraftKings Sportsbook is plus 215.
Wow.
I mean, Ray, you got a guy favorite at this clip. You got to get that done, Ray. Right, Kenny? I mean, I know this guy. No, I'm just kidding. So it is interesting because so many people have sounded off on this. Tim Welch, I believe, did an interview with Ariel Helwani, and Sean O'Malley has sort of maybe bloated the timeline, suggesting that Aljamain had 4 months. I guess for me, and I wanted to get Kenny's thoughts on this as part of my notes today, is just like there's a decompression period, especially after a 5-round championship fight. And the notion that like Henry Cejudo, and I love you, Henry, but would go public 2.5 weeks after this title defense of Sterling's. And it's not as though it's its first title defense. And to be like, hey, if Aljo can't fight O'Malley, I'll fight him. You know, it's like, it's almost like lunacy, right? And if you are a sports fan at your core, when Cejudo started getting injected into this, like, let us not forget, my calendar says May, and that is the month in which your pupil defended his title successfully. So, I don't know, man. It's just absolutely crazy to me how it's exciting for me as a fan. It's a huge fight, Sterling O'Malley, and it's happening quickly in our hometown. But my goodness, man, like this is a quick turn after a 5-round fight.
Yeah, I think the point to me is that he definitely publicly said he'd fight in September. I mean, we're talking about 4 weeks. Like that can't upset a schedule that bad, can it? 4 weeks. He's saying September would have been no problem. I don't know. That's where I have the problem. Why we got to force it 4 weeks earlier?
Well, if I'm Team Sterling, you know, I'm thinking there's tremendous value in an extra 4 weeks, right? That I probably would have made that demand, but it sounds like that's too late in time. Kenny, obviously you can speak to this, having not only gone into a 4th round against BJ Penn, but having gone 5 rounds against Jose Aldo and Sean Shirk, I believe, back in the day. Like, I know that his fight with Cejudo wasn't inherently violent in terms of like his absorption, but mentally, physically, that's a quick flip switch for Aljamain Sterling. And I think it's asking a lot, right? To turn around and beat Sean O'Malley here coming up August 19th.
Yeah, you know, there's a couple of things, right? There's the fight itself, and a 5-round fight could be a big problem, right? A lot of things can happen over the course of 25 minutes. There's a lot of wear and tear that happens on your body. But what people forget is the 5-round camp that you have to put in preparation for that. And it is absolutely grueling. And I think it's very healthy and normal and good for a fighter to take some time off, not only after a grueling 25-minute fight, but after a grueling camp like that. It's good for your mind. It's good for your spirit. You know, your body's going to have to recover. So all those things are super important, you know, for you to take time and be able to do that. So, and it wears on you. It can easily wear on you mentally. And as the champ, you have that big target on your back, of course. And, you know, it is a tight turnaround. This isn't just a 3-round fight that he's coming from. And it's not just, you know, this is the world championship that he's trying to hold on to here.
Yeah, and John, my thing is that he is the champ, and I think he deserves a little input and a little respect on that. I don't think it's a big deal if the guy asks for 4 more weeks to defend his title. He's not like he wants to fight. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
look, he can't even relish in his win. He's already has to think about
that's part of it too.
I'm a big believer. Work hard, play hard. You know what I mean? You could play hard as long as when you come in and you have to do what you have to do, you train hard. And I mean, like, you know, we're at a Memorial Day party. A guy technically, what do you want? Not to drink or socialize. Right. You know, he's already. They put him in a weird position because we didn't even get out of the octagon, and all of a sudden O'Malley's is injected into the conversation. I mean, we never made it out of the octagon. And I think the narrative they had was already written that's when they wanted to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. A guy doesn't defend his title in 3 months or 4 months and you strip him. I mean, or you have an interim title. I don't see any logic in that at all. It's not, guy's not even saying he just wants to rest. That's it. He didn't say he was hurt. He's going to be out for a year. We get that part. But now it's because if you don't do what we want you to do, when we want you to do it, we're stripping you of the title. And I think that's where it gets a little wacky to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we demanded that you get a haircut high and tight for the sake of the show to not be all over the place in the middle of the screen, I mean, we're on a network now. Would you get a haircut for the show? I mean, it doesn't sound like you would cower to that type of demand.
No, 100%. I'll get a haircut every day if you want me to.
So I keep banging this Aljamain Sterling drum, perhaps at my own peril, but I try to support all of these fighters, right? If you were to ask the roster, right, in terms of me either commenting to them on Instagram or privately, hundreds, if not thousands of messages. And I try to be individualistic about it. But one thing that I do say to fighters after a win is like, enjoy the fruits. And he's certainly not being afforded that opportunity. Let me ask you this. Is there any upside to the quick turn? Either of you?
I mean, the only upside, I guess is financially,
But none in terms of being in shape, not getting super bloated and putting together back-to-back training camps.
Yeah, that's tough, John. Just like what Kenny said, it's not even a lot of times you think about, but to do a 5-round camp, which is different than a 3-round camp, and now you're doing it over and over again, your body has to relax. I mean, he does push himself hard, and, everybody's set in their own ways. Look, and everybody's different. I mean, Merab probably would fight once every 2 weeks. He might not last that long doing that, but he's definitely not against it. If Cejudo would have said he would have fought him, I'm telling you, he wouldn't even have went for the hand operation. He would have fought with a busted hand. Now, I don't think that's the smartest thing to do, but that's Merab's comfort zone. He wants to get in there and do it healthy, not healthy. It's, he fought, even when Frankie Saenz, guy had a full-fledged flu. I couldn't stop him.
Right.
So everybody's different. Aljo's more of a cerebral guy. He's a thinker. He likes to plan things out. He likes to do things, the way he's found success. And I embrace that with him. We just had a great chat about a couple of things about fighting, and, I let him know what I'm thinking, and he lets me know what he's thinking.
All right, I have a few other things, and I promise they're MMA related. And I'm not just doing this for the sake of content, but it does amaze me like how upset you get when I talk about things that aren't fight related. And I don't know if you're just doing it to jab me in the ribs.
Give me an example.
Well, I think it's interesting when I ask you like how you get your steak cooked, right? It doesn't sound like you ask your fighters who are then going to chew the fat how they would like it cooked. But I think that's interesting. And you always, really? I mean, you're not like, no, I'm not saying like you're not as like off the wall and goofy as Matt Serra, but you're not like this straight edge guy. And it amazes me that you perpetually try to shift the conversation back to fighting when I try to just, No, let's do it. I'm not purposely doing that. Let's do it. Go for it. Right. No, it's all good. I mean, most of what I have is fight stuff. It really is fight stuff. Have we tipped the hairdresser yet? Have we taken care of that?
Well, listen, aren't you happy for me that my hair grows rapidly? That's
very
a good
much
thing.
So.
I do have to get it. I got to get her in here next week. How's that? How about we cut my hair on the podcast while I'm doing it?
We can do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Thankfully, Chief of Content at DraftKings, Stacey McCollum, hasn't complained. She probably is just so drawn into everything you're saying in the All right. Let me get into the few fighting things because Brian Petrie is going to populate this screen as we go 4 wide here in about 5 minutes. And Cody, you can let me know whenever BP is ready to go. So our next pay-per-view is coming up June 10th, and we're going to spend a lot of time later in the show talking about this weekend's fight between Kai Kara-France and Amir Albazi. But Irene Aldana is fighting Amanda Nunes for the championship. Happy birthday, Amanda. Today is her birthday. Irene Aldana is massive. She is a very talented Mexican striker, a willing grappler who has had years and years and years of grappling reps. And not unlike Alexa Grasso, I do feel like her career has built mindfully and rightfully towards this moment, right? She's a pretty big underdog coming up here on June 10th. But what kind of chance do you give Irene Aldana to potentially knock out Amanda Nunes? Because I think a lot of people believe if she's going to win, it's her power that's going to rule the day.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I give her a big chance to win that fight. You know what I mean? I think, like you say, she's a big kid who throws hard, man. I don't know if, Amanda's getting older. It's only a matter of time till we start seeing diminishing returns, and this could be the fight. These girls are hungry. I think there's a better chance of her winning than I would have had Grasso beating Valentina. If that makes sense, I don't know.
Yeah, the odds certainly reflect that.
Well, what are the odds in this fight?
I'll get you the price here on Irene Aldana. She is plus 260. To give you some point of reference, Sean O'Malley plus 215 against your guy Aljamain Sterling. Irene Aldana plus 260.
I think that's a good bet, man. That's a good, and I think she's got the momentum of her teammate, and Mexico's starting to come on strong. They got a couple of champs. I don't know, man. That girl can throw.
And I do think the size matters. And Kenny, I do largely want you to save your bullets on this, but I remember hosting the press conference before, I think it was UFC 278, the fight between Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman, and remarking about Leon's size just in person before he had even gone into training camp. And then I just had the chance to host the press conference between Irene Aldana and Amanda Nunes. You may recall Aldana went in for handshake. I went in for hug. And so we got the hug from Irene Aldana. I could just tell you, she's got some size to go with an appreciable skill set. I'm excited to see what she can do. The fight that I really wanted to ask you about before we bring on Big Gun Brian Petrie is Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira. And Benny Dariush has had a lot to say, doing a lot of media leading up to what you can argue is the biggest fight of his career. Title eliminator, to be sure. And I even know before next week's main event challenge that Ken-Flo is probably going to pick Beneil Dariush to win that fight. So very close on the betting line right now. Just wanted an early lean from you, Raymond, on Beneil Dariush and Charles Oliveira, just about 11 days out.
Yeah, I'm going with Beneil Dariush. Actually, both guys are great guys, like them both, but I think Beneil's been really, really consistent. I think he's waited long for this opportunity, and I think he's going to seize the moment. And again, if you look at Oliveira, and again, I don't really analyze these. I mean, I would go back if you want me to start really looking at it the right way. But, it seems like he's been knocked down a lot of times. He gets off the hook because of who he's fighting. I don't think he gets away with that with Dariush, and I think Dariush will be able to negate the jiu-jitsu, and he'll be able to I think he's winning that fight. I don't know. I see him winning that fight.
I think a lot of people agree with you. I'm trying to find the live betting line right now, and there are just so many offerings on DraftKings Sportsbook that I can't even find it right now, but it is very close. And I believe that Dariush might even be a slight favorite. Of course, Cody's going to chase that for us at some point in time. But as he does that, I want to go 4 wide if I could and bring on star of the main event challenge and the MMA Takes podcast, Big Gun Brian Petrie. Oh, look at that.
Let's go, boys. What's up?
There he is.
If you don't follow Brian's every move, I do, right?
Sure.
Like me and my twin brother, we're following this kid on Instagram, like just checking in on his vacation. So he's got some color. You got some color.
Ooh, yeah. This indoor cat went outside finally. I grew up in a swim club. I had a swim club up the street. My girls haven't had that privilege. So this year we first joined. This is the first weekend it was open. So sitting poolside, watching them swim was a good time. Getting a base of this pale skin. Redness.
Brian, you got to get that.
He's methodical with his tan.
You got to get that base coat, Brian. It's very important.
Got to get the base. I'll be in North Carolina in 2 weeks. I want to get golden when I'm out there. So we're laying a base right now, and we're going to be good.
So when we go 4 wide, we get to see you in more of your glory here. Yes. And I apologize if you're audio only at this point in time. We appreciate your support, of course. But you got this whole shot with these posters, and it looks like you got a sleeve tattoo on the left arm.
Oh, yeah. I'm working on that.
I mean, throw that fucking jab out there.
A little jab out there. Yeah.
So before we let Ray go, I don't know if you were in the back when we were sort of remarking that Ray likes to keep it pretty meat and potatoes here on the show and talk about martial arts. Are you okay when I bring up, your skin tone?
You can bring up whatever you want, John. I'm an open book. Book, man. We can talk whatever. You want my social security number? I got that right up top.
Just the last 4. Just the last 4.
That's all you need. Yeah.
Hey, Ray, we're going to let you go, man. We're going to let you go.
You sure there's nothing else you want to know? What kind of sneakers I wear? Anything? Anything?
No. What kind? Well, what I mean,
Nothing.
What kind is? Please tell me you don't wear like those big white Nikes that people your age wear.
No, I wear whatever the
or New Balances.
The white New Balances. Yeah, fresh.
That's it.
Are you wearing New Balances?
No, I'm wearing the Rock sneakers.
The Rock shoes. Yeah, the Rock shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Love them.
He's kidding.
Love them.
Price is right on those, by the way. Hey, so Petrie got a check too, Ray. It wasn't quite as big as yours. We did send Petrie a check as well.
I appreciate that. Got that today, boys.
Look at this. Look at this.
Man. You guys are the gift that keeps on giving.
100%.
Ken-Flo's the bank. He decides.
Ken-Flo.
Hey, Ray.
Ken-Flo, we're gonna hook up, man. I love that stuff you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you, Ray. Yeah, absolutely. It's been too long.
Next week, We could discuss anything you want. What I'm watching on TV, what music I like. A big Led Zeppelin fan, if anybody gives a shit. Love the old days, love the old rock and roll. Can't get it. I work out to Zeppelin every day.
You want me to ask you, you're watching The Ultimate Fighter tonight. You're going to watch The Ultimate Fighter. You want me to ask you, who's your favorite Ultimate Fighter winner ever?
What was that? Favorite Ultimate Fighter
the show
winner
tonight?
ever, I guess, would have to be Matt Serra.
Good pick.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. Yeah, I'm definitely watching tonight. I'm intrigued. I like, we know a lot of guys that are on there. I like the concept. I'm 100% watching it.
You probably have some spoilers then as to some results, yeah?
No, nothing. Nobody talks to me.
No.
All right.
I know nothing. You ever see the old Hogan's Heroes? I know nothing.
No, nothing. I see nothing.
That's way beyond me and Petrie. We don't know what you guys are talking about.
I went over my head too.
God, right. Come on, they're classics.
I got you.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. John, I want you to put together trivia questions for next week. Whatever you want to know, I'm into.
All right, just go tip your hairdresser, and we'll talk to you next week.
How about that? I'll have a haircut by next week.
Please, and just, it grows back. Just go a little bit tighter.
I don't know. You got to work with what you have, buddy. It's not getting easier at this age. All right.
You're the man, Ray.
Get out of here.
You're the man.
There he is, the Ray Longo Minute. Every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. Brian Petrie, welcome home. It's nice to see you, buddy.
Boys are back in town, baby. I love it.
So we have a lot of things to get to today. One thing that is returning to the program is the pronunciation of the week. So we're going to go back to that lovely four-shot, or we're just going to hear the dulcet tones of Cody Merrow. But essentially, we're going to play a name that involves a headlining fighter here this weekend. It is not Amir Albazi. Mm-hmm. It's his opponent out of City Kickboxing, first name Kai. He's fought several times in the UFC. But I just want to point out a little idiosyncrasy to his name. So we welcome in Cody Merrow. What's up, Blue Eyes?
What's up, Cody?
How's it going, fellas?
Cody, as one of our longtime listeners before you became the producer, are you as put off by the non-MMA talk as Raymond? Or are you okay with a little mix-up every now and again?
No, I'm good. See, I thought where you're going with that was my prowess in the pronunciation of the week as opposed to the previous producer. But, you can't win them all.
No, your pronunciation game a lot stronger than your NFL predictions. But is that your dog Scuba that's snoring in the background?
Oh yeah.
We will take snoring over barking. See, look at this guy, always looking out for the show. Just woke his fucking dog for the sake of the show. All right, so this flyweight contender recently fought for the interim championship, and I would just like to hear you say how Kai says his name, or at least how you think he says it.
So I think he says it Kai Kara France.
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely good to go for broadcast. Circle gets the square, but I would like to hear the file.
All right, the file is here.
That's it, just my full name.
Yeah.
Kai Kara France.
And then twice slow.
Kai Kara France. Kai Kara France.
Oh, and one with your fight name as well, please.
Kai Don't Blink Kara France.
All right, thanks to John Gooden for that. So, Ken-Flo, we talk a lot about rolling the R in Brazilian Portuguese, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every day of the week, Kai says his last name with that rolled R. I've never heard him say Kai Kara France. Now, we're in the business of getting the right syllable right. But those who choose to roll the R can, or those who are able to roll the R can. But, dude, I don't know, whether you're a Kiwi or a Brazilian, it's Kai Kara France with a rolled R every day of the week if you can do it, right?
Yeah, I think so. And that's cool. I actually didn't know that, but he is saying it different than what I've been saying it. But I agree. Kara France. Kara France.
Yeah.
Kara France. Let's go ahead.
There you go. Cody, that's good enough. Well, let's get back to sleep as we segue into the main event challenge. Kind of good after a week off to be back into this type of business, especially after a good week for you guys back when we last convened. Updated standings, Brian Petrie was minus 2,930 American dollars. 3-2 on the week. That included a hit on your special prelim featured bet, Gilbert Urbina, and a 3-unit whack on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. So a plus 310 week for Petrie. Ken-Flo 2-2, even on the week, remains in the black at plus $5. But far more importantly for Ken-Flo, his lead, $2,935 American dollars. UFC Fight Night, Kata France versus Albazi. And we'll begin in the heavyweight division. I don't care if Andrei Arlovski fights in a prelim, Bri, main event, PFL against Francis Ngannou.
Yes.
Whatever it may be, we're making a prediction and we're watching. Dontel Mays, though, betting favorite right now on DraftKings Sportsbook minus 125. The ageless 44-year-old Andrei Arlovski is plus 105. UFC start number 40 for Arlovski.
Wow.
What are you thinking? You think he gets it done? He's done a lot of winning of late.
Sure. Yeah, this line's weird to me because, I mean, didn't anyone not watch Dontel versus Augusto Sakai? I mean, the guy didn't show up. He threw under 40 strikes. I mean, didn't wrestle. D1 Dontel was not there anymore, right? What happened to this guy? This is a guy that was the most feared guy in Northern Kentucky, Southern Kentucky. He came up when I was still going to local shows, knocking everyone out. And now I watch him strike, and I'm like, he's so uncomfortable in the pocket. He doesn't like getting hit. He's like 6'7" or whatever, and he doesn't use his reach. It's very weird to me. Like, he regressed in his stand-up to learn a little more about grappling, and his wrestling's okay. It's nothing great. But Arlovski, though, he didn't get submitted for years. Barnett got him in 2016. Then all of a sudden he gave the Aspinall, and then he got submitted by De Lima, which is kind of an ugly submission loss in my opinion, right? That one is a glaring L in the record. That was the last time out. But I think Arlovski's going to keep this on the feet. I think he's going to win a decision. He doesn't put anybody out anymore. Dontel's cardio has improved, but you're giving me a plus number on the heavyweights. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it by decision, and give me the pit bull. Give me Andrei Arlovski.
Kenny, it really is incredible when you go to Andrei Arlovski's Tapology page or Wikipedia page and you think about all the big fights and how many big names he's fought spanning all these different decades. And I'm sure for you, you have a lot of admiration. Recently celebrating a birthday, not all that far away from his. He was submitted by Paysow his last time out. That was October of last year. But man, solid at the window, right? And you haven't paid a big price. The only man to beat him other than Paysow dating to 2019, Tom Aspinall. Petrie likes Andrei Arlovski. Kenny Florian, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's crazy to see that level of durability, that level of longevity in a guy who fought at a high level in the UFC's heavyweight division where you can take a tremendous amount of damage. And I got to say, I agree with Brian here as well. I think that Arlovski knows how to win rounds. He does have some close decision wins here and there. But I think the lack of activity, the lack of volume from Mays may come back to haunt him here again. I also don't think he's that much of a submission threat to where he could take down Arlovski, keep him there, get superior position, and then lock in a submission. So, for both these guys, it is the UFC heavyweight division, which can be difficult to predict, especially when you have two guys that are willing to stand up and trade. However, the experience for Arlovski, I think, is going to be the difference here, and I think he wins by decision.
All right, Andrei Arlovski plus 105 at present. Featured prelim in the welterweight division. Also close on the number. Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos minus 115. Abubakar Nurmagomedov is minus 105. So Nurmagomedov, interesting story, signed in 2019, but has only fought 3 times since. COVID-19, if memory serves, definitely played a role in that. But he is going for 3 straight wins here, Kenny, taking on Easy Dos Santos, who has a lot of UFC history, nearly murdered Benoit Saint-Denis the last time we saw him. But that was a long time ago, back in 2021. There was a suspension for Osterine, I believe. He disputed that as a contaminated supplement. At one point, this dude won 7 fights in a row in the UFC's welterweight division. He has been ranked before. Your thoughts on him here against the very tough Abubakar Nurmagomedov?
Yeah, and Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos is not only, he hasn't beaten the big names, but he's beaten some really good fighters, some really tough guys. And this was a tough one for me to pick, but I do think Nurmagomedov's wrestling could be a bit of a kryptonite for someone like Dos Santos. However, we've seen Nurmagomedov on the ground get caught a couple times. And I don't know if Dos Santos is that high level of a guy where he can submit him or take advantage of some of those opportunities. But I just think that Nurmagomedov's ability to strike, set up his takedowns, get control is going to be a tough thing for him to overcome. I think that on the feet, there's no question in my mind that Dos Santos is going to have the advantage there. He's very explosive. He's very fast. But I think Nurmagomedov's game plan of doing what every Dagestani has done all over the world, hit those takedowns, get the control, utilize ground and pound, win those rounds. I think that he's going to be able to do that here against Dos Santos. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get a finish against Dos Santos, but I think he does get the win.
If you are unfamiliar with the name Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos, biggest win of his career came against Sean Strickland. That was UFC 224 back in 2018. And another interesting note on this fight, some of you might have seen on social media, Bilal Muhammad out at AKA training alongside Nurmagomedov. So Bilal was scheduled to face Dos Santos in Brazil back in 2018. Landline. And in 2018, that fight did not materialize. And my research suggests that Bilal was like pulled from that matchup for whatever reason. And now he trains alongside Abubakar. We'll see how it goes. We're trying to get Petrie's video feed back. So, all right, Brian Petrie, Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos, -115. Abubakar Nurmagomedov, -105. Who do you like?
Go figure. The minute I get some color and I break the goddamn camera, looking so good. This fight's a little weird to me because Zaleski dos Santos is a guy who is a pure striker. I think this guy is great. He knocked out Sean Strickland back in the day. He has not fought a lot of grapplers. And you enter Abubakar, who I think when you look at the Khabib tree, I think he might be like the weak link if there is one. And that's not saying much. I'm not trying to insult the guy, but it's like that's the weak link in my opinion. I feel like he doesn't want it. He doesn't fight enough. And he does, but when he does, it's very low volume, good grappler. Maybe I sleep on him too much. I've picked against him in all 3 of his UFC fights. I've only got one right. So I'm going to go with Abubakar. I think the wrestling, the grappling, you can't beat that. He's been in AKA with Khabib. Bilal was up there. He's getting the full regular or original training camp. I like this. I think this is going to be an in-shape Abubakar. So give me Abubakar.
Yeah, I really like him as a human being and as a fighter, but it is hard with some of the inactivity to wonder about what exactly the intentions are, if there are indeed championship aspirations. But a good test for him coming up against a guy who's certainly done some things in the UFC. All right. Moving night in the flyweight division, the other main card matchup featuring the fly guys, other than the main event, of course. Tim Elliott -190 against Victor Altamirano +160. Now, sometimes I get a bad rap for injecting personal lives into live events. Right now, one of the foremost parts of my job is trying to humanize these athletes, right? And there is a circumstance involving Tim Elliott. Now, I'm not suggesting that if I was calling the fight this weekend that I would take this to air. And certainly I've learned over 20 years in the business most of the time how to softly take something like this to air. But here's May 13th. Not trying to bury the lead here on the Anik and Florian podcast, right? Tim Elliott on social media, May 13th. It's May 30th. You want to see something gross? This is my wife, quote unquote wife, reading vows to my daughter on our wedding night. The guy holding the microphone was my quote unquote friend, teammate. My wife cheated on me with this guy the same night, and they have had a relationship our entire marriage. And his, I guess, no longer wife, or soon to be no longer wife, is another UFC fighter, or former UFC fighter, I should say. And I don't even need to mention her name. But I feel for Tim Elliott, and I feel for, I think, his daughter Sterling, because this is just a crazy circumstance. And this goes back to Ken-Flo, and I just want your predictions at the end of the day, but you're not defending a rim here. This is a fight. You're defending your face, right? And so to go into combat, so to speak, I know it's not war, but to go into combat sports with this type of emotion, this is a crazy, crazy story for anyone to have to deal with, never mind a professional fighter. And, perhaps it was liberating for Tim Elliott to go public with this, but, if you don't think he's thinking about his teammate at some point in the build up to this fight as he's cutting weight and everything else, you're fucking crazy.
That is brutal, man. Again, there's so much that happens behind the scenes with fighters, and in so many ways, a fighter has to carry that stuff with them. Some things are very difficult to ignore, and a lot of things you're not supposed to ignore. You have to address in the moment, or you're not going to be at your best on fight night. There's so much that could go right and wrong, and we kind of forget these fighters are humans and they have these normal lives and they are susceptible. They're not these superheroes. And hearing a story like that, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that can crush a man or woman's soul. You know, that is the ultimate betrayal, right? You have both sides, a friend who you thought was a friend and who you thought was someone you were willing to marry. And that's a lot, dude. That's pretty fucking heavy.
Brian Petrie would end up in an orange suit, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I'm not a jealous guy. I never have been, but that's like night. I mean, who could have? I mean, you can't even write that. Like what happened? Like that's great. When I read that, I went on Reddit and I got all the information that was out there, and I just fell for Tim Elliott. I mean, that is such a scumbag behavior by the other guy who was, I'm not going to name his name, but what a scumbag that is.
Really just not good. But we feel for Tim Elliott dealing with that circumstance. And I know there's all sorts of sides to the story, but we'll see how it goes for Tim here. Minus 190 against Victor Altamirano, who is plus 160. So Elliott Bry ranked number 11 in the world. Many of you will recall him fighting Demetrius Johnson competitively for the title back in 2016. Still getting it done, right? Won 3 of his last 4 on paper. No James Krause, another circumstance in his life as Altamirano looks to take his number. Which way you going, Brian Petrie? It's Tim Elliott near 2-1 favorite right now against Victor Altamirano.
Handicapping's an ugly business, John, because, you look at what's going through Tim Elliott and it wants me to fade him, right? Because it's like, this is a guy who's already kind of a mental guy to begin with. I know there's some struggles early in his life. He has opened up about it. That's maybe why his performances weren't so clean. Now you're coming off this, which is no fighter, no human should ever have to perform under these circumstances. It's pretty crazy. Not to mention he's going against a guy, Victor Altamirano, who is kind of a crazy guy, right? I mean, the guy's nuts. Like he'll scramble with you, he'll wrestle with you, he'll scrap with you. He's down for it. And this should be a really fun fight. And Jamie Malarkey, which his fight got bumped to a different guy, that was going to be one of my dogs on this. So I needed another one. So give me Victor Altamirano just because I don't know if his head's there. I think we're looking at a pretty close decision because Tim Elliott's a stud. I think this goes to decision, and it's going to be a close one like most Tim Elliott fights are. But yeah, give me Victor Altamirano as a little dog shot here.
And I do think we're going to have a rule where if there is a Brazilian name, you got to give us the musical rendition at some point in time. You went right through Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos without giving us anything.
I had something in my notes too. My computer fucked it up, but dos Santos comes from a capoeira background, which is one of my favorite words to say. Capoeira dance fighting. It's the best.
See?
Yeah.
All right. So there's also the Robert Falla circumstance that Tim Elliott dealt with back in the day. Kenny, my heart goes out to the dude. Altamirano definitely streaking though, and has looked good in back-to-back wins, arrives at the biggest fight of his career. I can understand why Bryce sees some juice in that plus 160. Which way are you going here?
Yeah, be careful what you wish for when you decide to walk the Warriors' path. But listen, it's hard because you do have to take that into consideration. That's a real thing. And those are things that are going to affect your mental state when you need to perform at an extremely high level, when the repercussions of not making the right decisions can make you pay. So, yeah, this is tough. I guess I'm going to take it from more of a skill and experience type perspective. I have to assume that Tim is going to be, the regular Tim that we see. And for Altamirano, I think he would be a little bit more of a good underdog bet if he had more experience. He's got some wins for sure. Nothing against big names yet. I do think Tim Elliott's savvy game, his unorthodox game, his variety is going to pose a lot of problems for a kid who doesn't have that level of experience. But he's throwing shots. Tim Elliott's dealing with a lot outside of the cage. He could definitely pull it off, but I'm going to stick with Tim Elliott here in this one.
And you can argue Timmy Elliott perhaps will be most comfortable just in that fighting setting. It will be at the UFC Apex, I believe. We'll see how it goes. You guys are split on that fight. And let me remind you, you don't have to pick every fight. You are allowed to take one fight off. And if my memory is on point today, I will get a prelim selection from you guys or a fight that we're not picking today. If there's one on the main card, that's fine too. All right, featured bout at lightweight. Wicked curious to see which direction you guys go here. We got Jared Gordon minus 190 against Jim Miller, who is plus 160. 42nd UFC fight for Jim Miller. That is a record. Last one, a loss to Alexander Hernandez. That was in February of this year. Interesting year for Jared Gordon, right? The no contest against Bobby Green, in which Kenny, he seemingly lost consciousness, woke up, asked what happened, right? That was on April 22nd. And here he is 5 or 6 weeks later. So Jared Gordon minus 190, Kenny, Jim Miller plus 160. Why don't you lead the dance here with the 55ers?
Sure thing. I think that Jared Gordon has had, some bad luck as of late. I think he's going to have to clear his head and get ready for this big fight. He's facing a legend in Jim Miller. But I think Jared Gordon's going to be the fresher guy here. When you're talking about mileage and stuff like that, Jim Miller has been so damn impressive. Like, similar to what we were saying about Arlovsky, you talk about durability, longevity, still being a threat at this age for, going as long as he has is absolutely insane. But I think it's a tough matchup for Jim here. I think Jared isn't necessarily like a crazy threat on the feet from a knockout perspective, but I do think he's got enough juice to give Jim Miller a tough time there on the feet and to be able to thwart a lot of the takedown attempts from Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller does his best work either in the clinch with his knees and elbows or when he gets on top. And I think it's going to be tough for him to do that against Jared Gordon here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to take Jared Gordon down consistently in this fight. I think Jared will be able to keep it on the feet and win some close rounds. So I like Jared here by decision.
14th UFC appearance for Jared Gordon. He has never won a bonus. His last finish came in his UFC debut all the way back in 2017. Jim Miller will be 40 in August.
He's a man.
Seems like he's got a lot of miles on the farm over the last few months, but certainly that's only going to be a benefit during training camp. What do you got for us, Brian Petrie, Jared Gordon, Jim Miller?
I thought Ken-Flo was taking Jim Miller here. So let me slide in there and get that dog shot because I got to battle back here. Listen, I don't like that Jared Gordon got unconscious a little over a month ago. Headbutt or not, he was out, right? That scares me a little bit, shaking the brain. He wanted to turn right back around and go, let's keep fighting. I think this is a good, safe fight for him. Miller does have power, but it's not like this, one knockout power. It's going to be accumulation. And then Jared can put a pace on Jim Miller. Jim Miller, the one thing that I've seen as he's gotten older in 42 UFC fights is his cardio isn't world class. Like third round, he is tired. He's still in there. He's a dog. Alexander Hernandez, though, looked career best in my opinion. And Miller hung in there. Could have got finished, should have got finished, and hung in there. Yeah. Absorbed over 100 strikes. I mean, this dude's still tough. And I just think it's going to be interesting when it hits the grounds. I think Jared Gordon's going to want to maybe look for some takedowns, push him against the cage, and Jim Miller's no chump off his back. It's going to be interesting. Jared Gordon's great jiu-jitsu as well. In the clinches, like Kenny said, is going to be very interesting because, I'm a little worried about Jared Gordon's chin since he just got put out like a month ago. So that's something, a knee up the middle can change everything. Yeah. But you're hanging a good number on Jimmy Miller. I'm going to take it plus 160. Give me Jim Miller.
And I will say, 1995, Ken-Flo playing soccer at Boston College, right? Header against NC State, right? And his brain is scrambled. Play the whole game against Duke that weekend, right? So sometimes guys can recover. I'm not saying Jared Gordon is Anik Florian, but I do think that it stands to reason that somebody, built like Jared Gordon could okay. But
my party trick growing up when I was 21, this is how stupid I am. I got a block head. I have a couple beers in me. I let people break beer bottles over my head, and I eat them like chips. You know what I mean? That was my party trick because I got nothing else. And I did it pretty much every weekend. So so not smart.
When was the last time you let someone do that?
Or
do you do it to yourself? You just
no. Someone did it. There used to be. Well, I have since deleted my Facebook. There were several photos of Facebook of me going, all right, here, you're handing bottles, and then the pre-crack. It's been over like 12 years. It's been 12 years. Yeah, we're past that point in my life.
So I was going to suggest, right? So this main event challenge, right? The punishment is yet to be determined at Anik Florian Pod if you got suggestions, right? So I'm taking the punishment with you, and if Kenny loses, Cody's taking the punishment with Kenny. So maybe if we lose and we're down fucking 3 Gs, like let's get on it.
Yeah, let's get on it.
Like maybe get some maybe a 5-unit tickle today, but maybe we'll break beer bottles over our heads live on the Anik and Florian podcast. The issue for me is obviously the no hair. I might need to have a medic on standby. Kenny, I know you do this integrated defense. You do stitches too, or for your buddy? Or no?
Ken, you got some.
I do not. That's not my
there?
level of specialty. Yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea, John.
The trick was to kind of Beavis and Butthead cornhole it, put the shirt over the head so you don't get glass in your hair. Maybe not cut your head up, but it's probably not the best idea. For all the youths out there watching, it's very dumb. Do not do that.
That wasn't even a consideration for me.
Yeah, you were like, I'm all in.
America's
Let's go.
youth.
Yeah. I was 20, 21. I'll do it. I'll fucking do it. I've told my wife about it, and she's like, I want to see it. I don't know. I'm 36 now. It's getting up there, but we'll do it.
All right. I guess we'll have to. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I unless the youth of this great nation and other nations would be offended. I think it's a pretty good punishment. Right. Petrie and I put hoods on Kenny and break bottles over our heads. I think it's pretty good. Let Cody
and Kenny do it. Just like, hey, let's do it.
Oh God.
All right. Co-main event in the featherweight division. Another longtime UFC veteran, Alex Caceres. But I mean, how about Alex Caceres? Right?
You've been around forever.
I mean, 34 years of age. He started 0-2 in the UFC, 1-3 through his first 4 UFC fights. And this was in 2011, 2012. And look at him now, 28th UFC appearance for Alex Caceres, minus 175 here against Daniel the Pit Pineda, plus 150. Second UFC stint for Pineda, and just one loss for the first 4 fights of that stint. Brian Petrie, you going with the favorite Caceres or Pineda the dog?
Yeah, I like this fight. Alex Caceres, I'm glad you gave him props, John. This is a guy that doesn't get, Ultimate Fighter 12. Most people don't even know who won that season. People think that, that's the Bruce Leroy season. That's the Michael Johnson season. Jonathan Brookins won that fucking show. You know what I mean? That guy didn't last long. It's crazy that Caceres has been there step for step with Michael Johnson. And I love where he's at in his career. This guy went to 35. That was too much on his body. He's a long, lanky guy. Back up. Now he's fighting for fun. The Julian Erosa fight, that kick he landed, that's just flowy stuff. He's out there flowing, which I love. He's doing grappling outside of the UFC as well. He's staying active. He's durable. He doesn't give enough credit for how durable he is on the feet. It's very hard to put him out on the ground. Unless he's going down with Chrome Gracie, he can hang on the ground. He's very good on the ground. You got Pineda, who I have faded a lot because this guy has been injured. He's melted a couple USADA piss cups. And, he's been out of the octagon for a while. And I was all in on Tucker Lutz his last time out, and he bullied Tucker Lutz, bully-balled him, and just egg on my face. Pineda's very good, very dangerous in that first round and a half. His cardio usually fades. The Tucker Lutz fight, it didn't fade. Caceres is a well-rounded fighter who can win at any time. John, I was going to play it safe this week, and I was going to go, no multi-units. I've had a week off. Your boy's sitting in the sun, not really gambling much.
Right.
Well, let's go 5 units on Caceres. Nuts on the table. Let's go. We need a comeback, Johnny. I don't want a bottle broken over my head. Let's go.
All right. So a 5-unit trigger on Alex Caceres. That is an $875 wager, I believe, to yield $500. And by the way, I have had such little water today, Kenny, that right now my piss could melt. So I'm going to take a sip as you give us your prediction on Caceres and Daniel Pineda.
Let's go. This was a tough one for me as well. I think for Pineda, I think he can get some good work done, not maybe from a submission perspective necessarily, but on top with some ground and pound. He's got nasty elbows. When he's in his groove, he's tough to stop. He has been around a lot like Caceres, though. You never really know what kind of Daniel Pineda you're going to get. There's certain times where I'm like, dude, this guy looks phenomenal. Looks like he can go for a run here. But then there's other times where I'm like, he looks lackluster. He gets tired. Like, Brian mentioned his cardio. He struggled with that in the past, late in fights. So he's always been dangerous early. But as far as, going deep into the third round, I think, it hasn't always been there for him. I agree with Brian. He did look good in his last fight. So it just makes things that much more tricky. Now, let's talk about Caceres. Look at the improvements that he's made, the maturity that he has shown in the octagon as of late, the decision-making. He's been able to really put it together so much better. I think that Caceres and his experience makes him the favorite here for good reason. It's just tough when I get a guy like Pineda who's been inconsistent. Can he win? Yes. But I like Caceres. I like his consistency. I like the fact that he's been able to put it all together. Seems like everything is going well for him in a training perspective. So I like Caceres as well here. I'm not willing to do a multi-unit bet, but I do like Caceres here. So let's go.
All right, both guys on Alex Caceres minus 175. And yes, Cody, you do still owe the podcast a tattoo. See to it that you get that ink. My man. All right, let us get to the main event. Third ranked Kai Kara France minus 110. Number 7, Amir Albazi minus 110. That's a pick 'em, ladies and gentlemen. Albazi out of Iraq. That should be the pronunciation of the week. Everybody's saying Iraq. Albazi out of Iraq has won 5 in a row overall, 16-1 as a pro, 4-0 in the UFC, finisher, 3 of those UFC wins by stoppage. Only pro loss by decision to Jose Shorty Torres back in 2019. As such, Bri, he gets the opportunity of a career here. First UFC main event against recent interim title challenger Kai Kara France. Who do you like in the main event?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get in front of this. I cannot roll my R's. I have a whale's tongue. It's the widest tongue you've ever seen. So I'm just going to go Kara France here. So I'm not going to be too embarrassed. I love this fight. And the reason I love it is because it's so hard to pick. This is the definition of a pick 'em because you got Amir Albazi, who's kind of lit the world on fire at 125 when he's came in. A lot of hype behind this guy. And he hasn't really fought anybody. Then you got Kai Kara France, who's fought fucking everybody, right? And he had that real groove going there for a while, beating Askar Askarov, who's the boogeyman in the division. No one wants to fight that guy, right? To go and fighting Brandon Moreno and having a pretty competitive fight till he got dropped with the body kick. Kai Kara France is so technical that I'm worried that his volume's just not there. But this fight thunderstruck me, right? I had a dream about this. This is how pathetic and loser I am, dreaming about fights. But Amir Albazi is definitely, I think he's better on the ground. Obviously, Kai Kara France has been submitted before, but his takedown defense is very good. How is Amir going to get it there? I think it's going to be a club and sub. I think Amir, even though he doesn't have the technical prowess Kai Kara France does, Kai Kara has been known to get caught in fights, at least be hit. Albazi drops him, jumps on something a la the Brandon Royval fight, which is what Kai Kara France was in. You got submitted in that fight as well. This goes against everything I believe in with handicapping. You should pick the guy with the better resume, the guy with better talent, all this stuff. But just something thunderstruck me with Amir Albazi. So I'm going to go with Amir Albazi. I like that to pick him. Hopefully Kenny goes the opposite way here so we can get a little action. But give me Amir Albazi.
Amir Albazi minus 110 right now. On the other side, Kai Kara France, Ken-Flo, a lot of high-level experience acknowledged there by Brian Petrie. He challenged Brandon Moreno for the interim flyweight title. That was last year. He then pulled out of a fight earlier this year against Alex Perez due to injury. Now gets the main event shine actually for the first time in the UFC. Kara France, minus 110, same number on Albazi. World wants to know, Kenny Florian, which way you going?
Yeah, Albazi is a problem. I love his pressure, his pacing, and his pursuit of submissions when the fight hits the ground. I do think he definitely has vulnerabilities on the feet still, but he is tough. He's got a chin. He's durable, and I think he's very motivated right now. For me, experience-wise, doesn't have those big names on his resume, but he is very, very good and someone to watch for sure. I don't know exactly how this is going to go, of course, but I do believe in Kai Kara France and his game. I think that his camp is still one of the best in the world. I think he is going to be motivated by this main event spot here. And again, I look at the Askar Askarov fight and I say, well, maybe his volume wasn't there where it should have been, but I do think he was very well prepared to take on a very determined grappler in that fight. I think he can build off of that experience and get a good win here. I think he's coming in here confident. I think he does feel that he's going to have a huge advantage on the feet. I'm not sure he finishes him, but I definitely believe that he can finish someone like Albazi on the feet. I don't know exactly if it's going to happen early, but I think later, maybe third round, fourth round is when those punches and strikes can start to accumulate. Frustration set in against a guy who's less experienced, and he can win. So I like Kai Kara France here. I'm going to put, let's put 2 units on. Let's go 2 unis. Give me 2 unis. Nothing crazy.
Now I'm rethinking everything. Rethinking everything.
All right. I need 2 more minutes of your time, Brian Petrie. Do you have any other selections on this fight night? We've had, look at this guy. And I got to say, by the way, if you are somebody out there who's looking for an MMA handicapper, we're not trying to lose this guy, and loyalty goes very far. But I would hire the guy who dreams about fights, right? Like I do this 25 times a year. I do the podcast 50 times a year, but I'm not dreaming about fucking prelims.
Oh,
you know?
it's a problem. It's a problem. I talk in my sleep too. Eric, my wife says I'm talking about fights. It's an unhealthy obsession, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, so you've already given us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 selections, including a 5-unit hopper on Alex Caceres.
Mm-hmm.
What is your final selection for us? What else on the board piques your interest, brother?
I really like this kid, Luan Lucerda. He debuted against Cody Stamen. He's fighting Damone Blackshear.
Oh, yeah.
Great grappler, good on the feet. His takedowns are good, but he debuted against Stamen, who's a stud. Blackshear grappled himself, likes to do the work on the ground. I think Lucerda can win on the feet. I think he can win on the ground. He has a submission every different way. Rear naked choke, arm triangle, leg lock, heel hook. This kid is legit confident. 30 years old, right in his prime, ready to peak. Give me Lucerda. -145 is a juicy number, slight favorite. So I'm already on him early. Probably will get him again some kind of prop, but Luan Lucerda is my pick, baby.
All right, nicely done with the extra selection. That's 7 picks from Brian Petrie this week on the Anik and Florian podcast. And before we let you go, right now, this number, pretty interesting, UFC 291. And the latest example, in my humble opinion, about the UFC, the matchmaking brass, and them knowing exactly what they're doing, right? So Ikram Aliskerov is fighting Paulo Costa at UFC 291. Costa, the former middleweight world title challenger, looked really good in a memorable fight against Luke Rockhold. And then you have Ikram Aliskerov, who just won his UFC debut not all that long ago. Lone pro loss came against Khamzat Chimaev down at welterweight. Shortly thereafter, he moved up to 185 pounds. And now, Bri, one fight into his UFC career, he's favored, albeit slightly, -115, to beat Paulo Costa.
To me, it's a little insanity. That's Khabib's guy. I heard about that guy before the Khamzat fight, and then when he got slapped by Khamzat, everything, the brakes got settled. Look at his UFC debut, but Paulo Costa, if he comes in right, if he comes in on weight and doesn't do any of that weight bullshit, this is a guy who is really good, right? He's a powerhouse. He's hard to take down. He's hard to hold down. Ikram is kind of a well-rounded guy, but he wants to get the fight to the ground when he's fighting a guy like Paulo Costa. Easier said than done. I love that you brought that line up because now that I can legally bet, I've been jumping on early lines, and that's something I am definitely going to jump on. I think Costa, I know there's a lot of, the secret juice stuff. And does he want to be part of the UFC? Is the fight signed? There's a lot of outside stuff. But he's a real deal. He's a real deal.
Just really interesting that Aliskerov calls for the Bo Nickel fight, and DC wisely slowed my roll, suggested that was too soon for Bo Nickel, and now here he is fighting Paulo Costa. And no, go ahead, please.
No, I love Bo Nickel. I DM when I first started this podcast. I DM Bo Nickel, was the first guy I DM'd when he was still at Penn State, and was like, "Hey, can you come on the podcast and talk about if you're going to do MMA? Because we need a guy like him in MMA, right?" I got ignored. I get ignored because I'm a no. But the guy's a stud, and I've been on him. I think he's next level.
All right. Well, when we interview Bo Nickel here on the Anik and Florian podcast, if I should say, we'll have you be at. No, we'll have you be a part of that.
On here,
we'll have you be a whole part of that. But I just love seeing a line like that so close. All right, Brian Petrie, MMA Takes Podcast. Find him at Brian Petrie MMA on social media. Why don't you get on out of here, Brian? We appreciate your contributions as always.
You guys are the best. See ya.
Peace.
All right, before we go, just wanted to shout out the longtime manager of longo-weidman MMA, Steve Lee, who has now cracked the top 100 professional bantamweights in the Northeast at number 99. He's lucky that I'm not fighting, because I think Steve Lee and I might be on a collision course, but we appreciate his support very much, and nice to see him get a little bit of shine there. And lastly, I would just say to Jared Paolo, we know you're the heart of Argus Integrated Defense. It's not Ken-Flo, so I'm sorry for butchering your name off the top of the program. That is going to do it for us today. Don't forget, remember the show with Bilal Muhammad and Jason Anik, still live every Thursday on the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel. Our show here on the DraftKings Network and all over the place is live to tape. They actually do theirs live, so give them a view on Thursday night if you're so inclined. Also, check out KennyFlorian, at Argus Integrated Defense. Again, he had no idea we were promoting that today, but it definitely piqued my interest. One More Sleep merchandise is out there at millions.co. We are now offering my autographed fighter cards. I actually use these cards to prep for fights. We're also offering signed merchandise as well. So you can check out all of the regional designs as well at millions.co. Thank you to our guests today, of course, Raymond Longo, Brian Petrie, our producer, putting this whole show together ably, as always, is Cody Merrill. Kenny, safe travels back home.
Thank you, bro.
And we'll talk to you next week in advance of UFC 289. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. We appreciate every last one of you. Enjoy the fights this weekend. Back with a pay-per-view preview coming up next Monday. Until then, yo later.